What happens when a wildlife conservationist walks onto a talk show expecting a fun, lighthearted chat about animals, but instead gets blindsided by questions that turn the entire interview into a full-blown battlefield? Robert Irwin, son of the legendary Steve Irwin, showed up on The View, thinking he'd be talking about his newest conservation project. But Joy Behar had something very different in mind. What started as a harmless question about crocodiles spiraled into one of the most explosive confrontations daytime TV has ever seen, ending with security escorting someone off the set. But before we unpack this wild meltdown, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tell me whose side you are on, because trust me, after this, you'll definitely have opinions. So, Robert walks onto The View with that classic Irwin energy, bright-eyed, enthusiastic, ready to talk wildlife. The audience is cheering, he's smiling, waving, sits down, and the first few minutes are exactly what you'd expect. Whoopi asks about his recent trip to Northern Australia, and Robert lights up talking about his saltwater crocodile research, describing a massive 20-foot croc they tagged. The passion is unmistakable. The audience is loving it. And then, Joy Behar jumps in. "Robert, that's all very interesting," she says. "But do you ever think maybe we're spending too much time worrying about crocodiles when there are people suffering?" The room shifts instantly. Robert keeps a polite smile, but his expression tightens. He takes a breath. "Well, Joy," he begins, "conservation isn't choosing between people and animals. Healthy ecosystems support human life. When we protect wildlife habitats, we protect resources communities depend on." Joy leans back, not satisfied. "But practically speaking," she continues, "we have homeless, veteran-hungry children. And we're out here tagging crocodiles. Help me understand how that makes sense." Now the other hosts are exchanging glances. Sunny looks uncomfortable. Sarah is trying to read the tension, and Whoopi has that neutral, still face she uses right before things blow up. Robert sits forward. "With respect, Joy, that's a false dichotomy. Our organization employs people, supports local economies, funds education. Conservation isn't frivolous, it's essential." And this framing, that caring about wildlife means you don't care about people, that is part of the crisis we're facing. The audience reacts that involuntary "oh you" hear when someone goes bold on live TV. Joy raises her eyebrows. Gearing up for round two. "Environmental crisis," she echoes. "Robert, you're very young, and I don't mean that as an insult, but some of us have been hearing environmental doom stories for decades. Acid rain, the ozone hole, Florida sinking. At what point do we admit some of this is exaggerated?" Robert's jaw tightens. He's trying to stay calm, but a fire is building. "Joy," he says, "the ozone layer recovered because we took action. That's not exaggeration, that's proof policy works. And sea level rise. It's happening now. Pacific communities displaced. Miami flooding at high tide." Joy cuts him off. "Miami's always flooded, Robert. I've been going there for 40 years. With respect, that's simply not accurate." Robert shoots back, louder now. "Tidal flooding in Miami has increased dramatically. This isn't opinion, it's measurable data." Whoopi tries to step in. "Okay, maybe let's bring this back too, but..." Joy barrels ahead. "Robert's generation has been told the sky is falling your entire lives. It breaks my heart seeing young people terrified about climate change when they should be enjoying their youth." That's when Robert's composure finally cracks. "Terrified." "Joy, we're not terrified," he fires back. "We're informed. And honestly, it's attitudes like yours, this dismissiveness, this refusal to accept scientific consensus that have made this crisis so much worse. My generation is inheriting a planet degraded by decades of inaction. And now we're being patronized for trying to fix the mess." The studio goes dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Sarah tries to save the moment. Robert, why don't you tell us about the new exhibit? Joy cuts her off. No. Let him finish. He clearly has thoughts about my attitude. Robert turns fully toward her. I'm not attacking you personally, Joy. I'm criticizing a mindset. The mindset that says we can't care about more than one issue at a time. The mindset that treats environmental science like a debate topic. The mindset that dismisses the concerns of young people who are going to live in the world we're creating right now. Joy's face flushes. I've been on television for 30 years, Robert, she snaps. I've interviewed presidents, world leaders, Nobel Prize winners. I don't need a lecture from someone who grew up on a TV show. And that's it. The gloves are off. Robert's face goes pale, then red. His hands grip the armrests. That is incredibly disrespectful. Joy, my father dedicated his life to conservation and education. He died doing what he loved. And yes, our work was filmed for television, but that doesn't make it less legitimate. Would you say the same thing to Jane Goodall? To David Attenborough? Joy waves a hand. Those are scientists, Robert. You're a celebrity. I have a degree in conservation biology, he fires back, voice trembling not from fear, but frustration. I publish research. I work directly with endangered species recovery programs. What exactly makes my credentials less valid? Whoopi tries again. Okay, everyone, let's take a breath, but Joy steamrolls right over her. Your credentials are fine, Robert. I'm sure you're very smart. What I don't like is this moral superiority your generation has. You come on shows like this and preach about how terrible we've been. How we ruined everything and, honestly, it's exhausting. Robert lets out a short, incredulous laugh. Self-righteous. Joy, you've built an entire career on telling people when they're wrong. How is defending conservation science any different from what you do every single day? The crowd reacts, gasps, murmurs, scattered applause. Sunny looks stunned. Sarah looks like she wants to disappear. Alyssa watches like she's witnessing a slow-motion car crash. Joy jabs a finger toward him. The difference is, I've earned the right to my opinions. I've lived through wars, recessions, major social movements. You've lived through. What? Instagram. I've lived through the 6th mass extinction. Robert shoots back instantly. I've watched species vanish. I've seen coral reefs die in front of me. I've held animals in my hands that were the last of their kind. So forgive me for thinking I've earned the right to have strong opinions about conservation. Joy shakes her head. See? This is exactly what I mean. To you, everything is a crisis. Everything is the end of the world. When I was growing up, we called people like you alarmists. And you know what we call people like you, Joy? Robert's voice rises, full of heat. We call them deniers. We call them obstacles. We call them part of the problem. The studio erupts, half clapping, half gasping. Some audience members are booing. Others just sit there, frozen, mouths open. The tension is so thick, it feels physical. Whoopi pushes back her chair and stands. Okay, enough. We need to stop right now, she says, voice firm and steady. But Joy and Robert aren't stopping. They're locked in, eyes locked, neither willing to back down. Joy stands, her voice sharp. I am not a denier, Robert. I believe in climate change. What I don't believe in is being shamed for living my life for traveling, for enjoying things by someone who has made millions of dollars off animals. Millions, she repeats, almost spitting the word. Robert stands too. And cameras capture producers hurriedly moving in the background, unsure whether to step in. Every dollar our organization earns goes straight back into conservation. Robert fires back. My family lives modestly. We don't own private jets. We don't own multiple mansions. We spend our money saving habitats and funding research. He steps closer, his voice low and razor sharp. What do you spend your money on, Joy? The question hits the room like an explosion. A collective gasp sweeps through the audience. Joy's face goes crimson. How dare you question how I spend my money? She snaps. You don't know anything about my life. You don't know what I do with my resources. You're right, Robert says. His voice is calmer, now controlled, almost surgical, which somehow makes it cut deeper. I don't know everything. But I know you fly to your vacation home regularly. I know you've opposed wind farms because they ruin the view. I know you've mocked young climate activists on this very show. He pauses, eyes fixed on hers. So forgive me, Joy, for questioning whether you actually care. Or whether you just like arguing. Sunny tries to step in. Robert, I think maybe we should. No, Joy cuts her off sharply. Let him talk. Let him tell us all how terrible I am. Let him explain how his generation has it all figured out and the rest of us are just stupid or selfish. Robert takes a slow breath. I never said you were stupid, Joy. I said your attitude is part of the problem. And it is? When someone with your platform dismisses environmental science. When you mock young people for caring about the future. You're using your influence to spread apathy, whether you acknowledge it or not. Joy throws her hands up. I care about plenty of things, Robert. I care about healthcare. I care about education. I care about human rights. Just because I don't worship your pet project doesn't mean I'm apathetic. It's not a pet project, Robert says, voice rising. It's the foundation of all those things. You can't have healthcare without clean water. You can't have education without a stable climate. You can't talk about human rights while people are being displaced by environmental disasters. Everything connects. And the fact that you don't see that, that's what's terrifying. You're smart enough to understand it, you're just choosing not to. Joy grabs the stack of note cards in front of her and slams them onto the table. I'm not going to sit here and be insulted by someone who thinks spending time with koalas makes him morally superior to everyone. And I'm not going to be condescended to by someone who believes age automatically equals wisdom, Robert fires back. Some of the most destructive decisions in human history were made by older people who thought they knew better. The audience gasps. Whoopi raises her voice. All right. That's enough. We're going to commercial, but Joy barrels forward. Get him off my stage. I'm serious. Get him out of here. Robert laughs. Not a cheerful laugh, a hollow one. Your stage. It's not your stage, Joy. You're one host on a panel show. You don't own this. Security. Joy calls off camera. Can we please have security? Alyssa jumps in. Joy, come on. This is getting out of hand. It got out of hand when he started personally attacking me, Joy snaps. Robert turns fully toward her. Personally attacked you. You're the one who brought up my father. You dismissed my education. You called me I defended my work. That's not an attack. That's a response. Two security guards start approaching the stage, hesitation all over their faces. They clearly have no idea which one of them they're supposed to remove. Producers are whispering fiercely into their headsets. Audience members stand, some cheering, some booing, and plenty filming the chaos on their phones. Sunny rises and places a hand on Joy's shoulder. Joy, maybe we all need to take a beat. Joy jerks away. No, I'm done. I'm done with this interview. Either he leaves or I leave. But this isn't continuing. Robert looks at Whoopi now. I came here in good faith. To talk about conservation. To talk about endangered species. And instead, I got ambushed with dismissive questions and personal attacks. If anyone should leave, it's the person who turned this into a fight. Whoopi lifts both hands, trying to hold the room together. Nobody's leaving. We're adults. We can disagree without turning this into whatever this is. Can we, though? Robert asks quietly. Because every time someone from my generation talks about climate or conservation, we get the same response. We're too young, too emotional, too alarmist. At what point does our expertise matter? At what point do we actually get a seat at the table without being dismissed? Joy crosses her arms tightly. You have a seat at the table, Robert. You're on national television right now, Joy says, stepping closer. You have millions of followers. You have resources most people could only dream of. What you don't have is the right to tell people who've been working on these issues longer than you've been alive that they don't care enough. Then prove you care. Robert fires back. Stop mocking climate activists. Stop dismissing scientific consensus. Stop prioritizing your comfort over the planet's future. If you actually act like it, Sarah finally speaks, voice trembling. Maybe we can find some common ground here. You both clearly care about important issues. You just have different priorities, different approaches. No, Robert cuts in, firm. We don't have different priorities. We have one person who values evidence and action, and another who values contrarianism and ratings. This isn't a both-sides situation, Sarah. Climate science isn't up for debate. Conservation biology isn't a matter of opinion. These are facts. And I'm done pretending skepticism and denial deserve equal airtime with reality. Joy uncrosses her arms and steps closer. You want to talk about reality? Here's reality. Most people watching this show are worried about paying their bills, not about crocodile populations. Most people can't afford electric cars or solar panels. Most people are just trying to survive. And you standing here, acting like they're part of the problem? That's elitist. And it's offensive. Robert doesn't move. I never said ordinary people are the problem. The problem is systemic. It's fossil fuel companies that spent decades funding climate denial. It's politicians who take money from polluters. It's media personalities who platform denial and make it sound reasonable. Regular people are doing the best they can with the system they're stuck in. But we have to change the system. And that starts with people like you using your platform responsibly. Responsibly, Joy repeats with a scoff. You mean agreeing with you? I mean not spreading misinformation, Robert replies. I mean not elevating arguments that have been debunked. I mean acknowledging that when 99% of climate scientists agree on something, maybe the 1% funded by oil companies isn't the side we should be quoting. Whoopi tries again. Okay, I think we've heard both perspectives and our viewers can decide no. Joy interrupts. I want to know something, Robert. If you feel this strongly about all of this, if you think I'm such a terrible person with such dangerous views, why did you agree to come on the show? You knew who I was. You knew what this show is. So why come here just to insult me? Robert pauses. And for the first time in minutes, he really thinks before answering. I didn't come here to insult you, Joy. I came here hoping for a real conversation. I came here believing that maybe just, maybe if, I explained the work we're doing and why it matters, it might actually resonate. I came here with optimism, Robert says quietly. Maybe that was naive. But I genuinely thought it was worth trying. And honestly, even now, even after all of this, I still think you could understand why this matters. I think you're choosing not to. And that's what frustrates me. For the first time, Joy's expression softens just a flicker. You think I'm choosing ignorance? I think you're choosing comfort, Robert replies. Because acknowledging the scale of the environmental crisis means acknowledging that changes need to happen, changes that might affect your lifestyle. And that's uncomfortable. I get it. But comfort isn't more important than survival. The security guards linger awkwardly near the stage. Producers make frantic, cutthroat gestures. Whoopi looks like she's aged 5 years in 10 minutes. Joy picks up her coffee mug, takes a long sip, then sets it down with a quiet thud. I'm 70 years old, Robert. I've lived a full life. I've fought battles you can't even imagine. I've championed causes that were unpopular and exhausting. And now you're standing here telling me I'm choosing comfort over survival. Like I haven't spent decades fighting for things I believe in. She steps closer. The difference between us isn't that you care more. It's that you think caring about the environment makes you better than people who prioritize other issues. I don't think I'm better than anyone, Robert saysn't this time. His voice cracks. I think we're running out of time. I think we're in the middle of a crisis that affects everything, everyone, everywhere. And people with platforms have a responsibility to take that seriously. That's all I've been trying to say. Joy nods slowly. And I think young people have been convinced the world is ending and it's making them miserable. Someone needs to push back on that narrative. That's all I've been trying to say. They stand there, staring at each other, to people from two different worlds. For a moment, it feels like they might finally have reached something resembling understanding, or at least a stalemate. Then Joy turns to the producers. I'm taking a break. You can finish the show without me. She walks off the stage, coffee mug still in hand. The security guards glance at Whoopi, unsure what to do. Whoopi waves them off. We're good. Thank you. Robert stands alone in front of the remaining hosts and a stunned studio audience. Alyssa clears her throat. Well, that was certainly illuminating. Whoopi looks at Robert. You've definitely made this a memorable appearance. Robert runs a hand through his hair. I didn't mean for it to go like that. I just couldn't sit here and let those arguments go unchallenged. Sunny offers a small, sympathetic smile. For what it's worth, I think you made some valid points. Valid points don't matter if they don't change minds, Robert says softly. Whoopi stands and reaches out her hand. Sometimes planting seeds is enough. People hear you even when it doesn't feel like it. Robert shakes her hand, but his shoulders slump. The fire from earlier has been replaced by exhaustion. I hope you're right. The cameras stay on him as he walks off the stage past crew members whispering. Past producers already on their phones doing damage control. The audience sits frozen, unsure whether to applaud or stay silent.